conversation on the global game. This is World Football on the BBC World Service.
Hello, this is Manny Jasmine. Welcome to the programme. With me, Pat Nevin and Heather O'Reilly. Heather, the dispute between the USA women's team and the USA Football Federation or Soccer Federation has taken a very serious turn. I saw reports where the representative of the women's players is now talking about going to a jury trial because they haven't reached an agreement about equal pay. What do you make of that?
I was really disappointed to hear that the mediation only lasted for about 3 days, which means that it couldn't have gone very smoothly or swimmingly. I'm not involved in the mediation. I know that a lot of the current players were, but for it to end so quickly, and the messages from the national team players' side is that it was, it wasn't even close to being near agreement. So it's disappointing that there was not a compromise reached, and it has to get to this point, especially with the women coming off such a wonderful World Cup run, and there was so much positivity and good feelings around the team for this to come to this in order for the women to sort of get paid what they feel like they deserve. I know that if our men's national team won the World Cup, they would each receive over $1 million of salary for the year, bonuses included, et cetera. But for the women to win, it was only near 200,000. So there's still a big discrepancy and difference in the pay. And, these champions deserve to get paid what, they feel is right. And what they feel is right is equal pay. And, it's disappointing. So it's, now we're into this year-long or 2-year-long, boxing match with the federation, which is not what anybody needs.
Pat, very, very early to ask you this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What have you divined from Frank Lampard's first 2 meaningful games as Chelsea manager? A 4-0 defeat, probably very misleading for both teams. Man United beat them 4-0. And then a 2-2 draw, very entertaining against Liverpool, which they lost on penalties. What have you been able to see so far?
Well, I wrote a piece a couple of days before the start of the season saying there'll be a few ups and downs for Frank Lampard. Well, that is a bit of an understatement. Every single game lurches massively from huge highs to massive lows, and that's only 2 games in. To be honest, what's disappointed me, surprised me most was David Luiz being let go. That's because I'm completely and utterly biased and have a bit of a man crush on David Luiz because I think he's great. Even my wife thinks he's fabulous. So, it's one of those kind of strange things where I don't know why you're letting that guy go. However, and then the Manchester United game comes. Yes, they were unlucky, but they shipped 4 goals against what was an average-looking Man United team. I really thought they were average. However, the game against Liverpool in the Super Cups made me think, actually, they've got a chance. I thought they looked like a mid-table team with all the players they had. However, looking at them now, looking at what Frank's brought in, with the young players and the ones that were out on loan, I've got a little bit of hope that they can maybe get top half of the table this season.
Well, twists and turns in the United States, ups and downs for Chelsea. We'll see how their season progresses. But now let's meet our special guest, the Ivory Coast international Wilfried Bony. He won the Africa Cup of Nations in 2015. He was top scorer while playing in the Netherlands with Vitesse Arnhem, also played for Swansea City and Manchester City. Wilfried, welcome to the programme. Great to have you on. You don't actually have a club at the moment, so you're training with Newport County, who play in the 4th tier of English football. How's that going?
Yeah, of course it's completely different, but the most important is not to stay home or not to train alone. It's completely different when you train with a team, even if it's a low tempo, even if it's a low level, but it's still training to try to keep going, try to make happen your movement and stuff like that. So that's why I went there to train.
You were in Qatar for a few months last season, playing there. Just explain the process of finding a club. How does it work?
I was come back from my injury, 10 months, and then I started in November with Swansea. But I was lucky about the African Cup was moving. to June, July. Otherwise, if it was in January, I should not be playing that competition. So when I know then it was moving to July, I was very happy. So I have only one thing in my head: try to find a club and play regularly to have a chance to participate in the African Cup. So when this opportunity comes, it was the best thing for me to do, because I would love to participate in the African Cup, and I think I was happy to be there at the end.
So playing a few games got you back to match fitness and got you in the Ivory Coast squad, so that achieved its aim. You sound very relaxed about not having a club. You know, are you quite confident that you'll find one?
Yes, of course, I will find one. I'm not a new player, so yeah, it's a completely crazy, but that's the football, that's the way the football is, so I don't have to worry about. I just have to keep working, and then my agent talking with some people, so I think, I hope before the end of this month I will find a club.
Have you got a preferred country or even continent you want to work on?
If there is a possibility to stay in the UK, okay, I will take it, because I'm here almost 6 years. But we never know in football. Nobody knows, and I will go to Qatar to play, so everything is possible in football.
We'll hear more from Wilfried Bony, our special guest, later in the programme. But now let's move to Germany, where on Saturday, Paderborn will mark their return to the Bundesliga with an away game against Bayer Leverkusen. Every year since 2014, Paderborn have either been relegated or promoted. After their one and only season in the Bundesliga, when they were top after 4 games, they were relegated 3 times, but only saved from having to play in the 4th tier when another club collapsed. Then they were promoted successively, and now they're back in the top league. Their captain, Christian Strohdiek, is a local boy and, but for one season, has spent his entire career at Paderborn. He's been telling me about the dark times, which he says were very dark indeed.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible for us as players. It's terrible for the fans from us to go there and everybody, say, this is Paderborn. This is bad football. This is, you're going down, and so it's not good for your confidence. And you see, it's happened again, and you're feeling down, and from the feeling it's very disappointing.
It must have been really tiring, just always lose and always go down.
Yeah, it's difficult to explain, because you stay every week on the pitch, you stay there, you got your game plan and nothing work, and you lose a lot of confidence. You stay there and you can't believe that things happened to you, to your team, to the whole city, and so you go in a deep black hole, and there's no way to find out.
So why the change? Why did everything become good again? What's the reason for that?
Yeah, the reason is the new coach. We're sitting there. Nobody knows what's happened next with you, with the team, with the club, and we know that this is not the right way. We have to change something, and we changed our football. We changed to more offensive power. We would like to score goals, and this is a key that we have.
What was it like last season when you heard that Union Berlin had drawn 2-2, which was the result that finally confirmed your promotion back to the Bundesliga? What was that like?
Our game was finished, and we know that the game in Bochum is already in the last second. So we went in the locker, and the whole team standing there and watch on one handy. And,
on one mobile phone?
Yeah, on one mobile phone, and we're standing in a circle, and everybody want to see something, and our vice president is calling, maybe at home or something like this, and then he's screaming, "It's over! It's over! It's over!" And in this moment, everybody go out, everybody's running to the fans, and just screaming. Everybody's happy. Some guys crying. So it's an amazing feeling about For the whole city, for every guy, for every fan, go down with us and stay there and say, yeah, probably I'm a guy of Paderborn, I'm a fan of Paderborn. So yeah, unbelievable that miracle has happened.
Christian Strohdiek, the captain of Paderborn, who told me that he's only been speaking English for a year, which is extremely impressive when you listen to that interview. Pat, Chelsea were relegated from the top division in 1988. That was your last season. Was there a moment when you thought, hang on, this is going seriously wrong?
I can remember watching a film many years ago called The Perfect Storm, and everything went wrong at the same time. Well, that's what it was like with us. We were top quarter of the league at the turn of the year. And then suddenly our goalkeeper was injured. We couldn't get another goalkeeper in of real quality. Some of our best players then get injured. They mistakenly sold one or two of our best players as well. And you're looking around thinking, this team was competitive and very, very good a month ago. And we just couldn't win another game. And we went down after a playoff. You remember that the only time it ever happened? Playoffs to go down, and we were fourth bottom. It was horrendous, but the amount of mistakes that were made was incredible. And you'd almost think, in retrospect, you must try hard to make that many mistakes as a club to get it that wrong. But they managed to do that. It's a horrible thing. And the other thing was, the spirit had gone out of the group as well. And I think that's one of the hardest things. Every relegation team you usually talk to, something's usually happened with the spirit as well.
I mean, how did it affect the players? I mean, how did it affect you? Was it a case that you just didn't want to get the ball anymore, or you didn't trust your teammates to pass it to them? How did it manifest itself?
That's a great question, Manny. A brilliant question. And as a football players, we all know what I'm. So I never lost any confidence. I knew I was leaving anyway. I'd already agreed to go to Paris Saint-Germain, so I was fine. So I was confident, but every time I got a ball, I turned around to run with the ball and look for my teammates, and all I seen was a bunch of backsides. Nobody wanted the ball. They all turned their back because so many players had lost confidence around me. So you start looking bad because nobody wants to go on the ball. Nobody wants to be the one that makes a mistake. So it's a horrible, horrible feeling when you feel the whole grip of the entire side falling apart. And it takes all that. And also, on top of everything, on top of absolutely everything, stick bad luck on top of that. And that's what it needs. It was, I mean, I look at all the way through my career, 19-year career, and it's funny you should talk about now. That is one of the days that sticks by me more than anyone else, any other one. Walking away after that game thinking, these people think I'm leaving them. In actual fact, I was just getting some money for the club. They needed some money.
Yeah. But, I mean, plenty of players do leave relegated teams and stay in the division they were playing in. You know, it's the fans and it's the club that has to deal with playing at a lower level and all of the things that come with that, you know, financial and everything else. You know, was there a bit of you that thought, you know, well, it's bad, but I'm going to be somewhere all right next year?
No, I honestly didn't feel that way. I'm just not that type of person. I love the Chelsea fans too much. The fact that I am still a Chelsea fan to this day tells you that, you know, I couldn't have that heartless feeling towards the fans. So, yeah, I felt quite bad for my teammates. I felt fairly bad for, you know, people that worked at the club, but most of them would keep their jobs as it was in those days. But for the fans, I was absolutely devastated for them. And also the feeling that they might have thought, well, he's running off the sinking ship. He'll be okay. And I couldn't really tell them the story that, you know, I was possibly the major asset at the club. They needed to cash in. They needed the money. They got what was half of the biggest transfer fee in English football history for me at that time. And it really helped them. And they came back up the next season. So all was well in the end, but it is a horrible thing in football. Some of the worst things: losing a penalty shootout, losing a semi-final, and going down.
Of course, it doesn't always work out better for players who leave relegated teams. Herman Hreidarson, the old Icelandic player, was relegated with 5 different teams. Pretty much every ship he went to sank. And,
I think we know where the fault is there then.
Common denominator.
I know. I was surprised that perhaps after the third one, the clubs didn't think twice about signing him. Heather, in America, how would relegation fit in with the sporting culture?
Oh, it's actually a huge conversation right now in the MLS and Major League Soccer if they should have promotion relegation. It's a hugely debated topic because, for the American sports culture, the playoff system is one that is something that American fans are very much used to. And actually, speaking of Zlatan Ibrahimovic, we just heard an interview from him that he was, essentially saying that the American playoff system is flawed and needs to change in the league because, in his opinion, you shouldn't be happy to get, fifth place in a league or sixth place. And some teams are because it puts them in a position where they can still make a run for a championship. And he just, completely disagrees with that, which, I think it's similar. It's similar to always chasing, the fourth spot in the English Premier League. And I won't say which club, has that goal in mind. Arsenal Football Club. It's a little bit of a different system, and because of that playoff system, we actually don't have relegation, or it's never been instituted thus far. I think it's a conversation that the MLS will have in future years, and I think that it certainly adds an element of desperation. There's such a financial hit if you don't stay up. There's such a hit to players' careers, really, if you don't stay up. But I would like to see it sooner rather than later.
I don't recommend it, Heather. Don't try
No, it seems stressful.
It's horrible.
Seems very stressful.
You're listening to World Football on BBC World Service, and our special guest this week is the Ivory Coast international Wilfried Bony. Wilfried, let's talk about your childhood. How did you fall in love with football while you were growing up in Ivory Coast?
This is like all the children, I can say, because it's when I was very little, my mom gave me like a present, like a ball, and I was going outside to play with my friend. So it's like this. I started to love it, and then continue till I went to the primary school, and then was playing in the break time with my friend, and we started to make some competition with any classes. So it was like this. It was from my childhood, I can say.
I spoke to Victor Wanyama, the Kenya captain and Tottenham midfielder, a couple of months ago, and he was telling me about how he was playing barefoot when he was growing up, and he would go home with bloody feet and try and hide them from his mum. Is that can you relate to that?
Yes, yeah. Especially you have to play without boots, because your family pay the boots, so you can't play with that and then come back, or it's dirty or it's broken. So you need to play without that. And then when you come back and you have a toys, plenty of blood or something like this, so they're going to kill you. I'm sure they're not going to joke. So the parents going to kill you. So we used to play without boot, and I play with that till 14. First boot, I have to steal money from my dad to buy it because he was not happy for me to get that shoes. But I was in love with that shoe, so I sent my mom. So look, I need that boots to play because I've been playing almost 2-3 years without this. Is killing my toys.
What did your parents think of your dream to become a footballer? When it became serious, that's what you wanted to do with the rest of your life.
My mom agreed with that since the first day, but my dad was not agree with that. So I have to fight with him. I have to fight with him because I have to stop the schools in 2003. So he was very, very, very angry at me. But I have my mom who supported me anytime till now. So there was a bit of competition at home. So I have to abandon the house for almost 3 years, living with my friend till I found a new club in Isiawazi in Premier Division. If my son today wanted to say to me, Dad, I want to play football and stop school, I will fight with him. So I will tell him, no way, you're going to school. Because if something happened on football and you don't have something in your head, what are you going to do after? Nothing. But I was lucky then a few years later, he saw me play in Ivory Coast Cup, National Cup, where I won in 2006. And then from that, I had a trial in 2007 in Liverpool. After that, 2 months later, I went to Czech Republic. So from that day, I think he knew then he was serious about me wanting to play football. So he started to support me like crazy.
Later in the programme, I want to ask you about your time at Manchester City, but let's hear from a current player at City, Bernardo Silva. Is he a midfielder? Is he a forward? He seems to be at least two different players in every game. He's become integral to Pep Guardiola's plans. And the Portuguese player, who's a Benfica fan and a former Benfica player, knows all about the big rivalry between Benfica and Sporting Lisbon in the Portuguese capital. And he's been telling World Football's Steve Crossman all about it.
Personally, I've always lived with people from both sides, so from Benfica and Sporting. My mom, she's from Sporting. She's a Sporting supporter. My dad, he's a Benfica supporter.
No.
Yeah. Most of my best friends are Sporting supporters. Some of them are also Benfica, so we know how to live with each other. But when the game is on, yeah, the rivalry is big. Happily, I'm a Benfica fan.
Why then? Why did you pick Benfica?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. I think when you're a kid, you don't choose. It's either because of your dad or something that happens, or because Benfica is winning more in that moment. But as I said, happily, I chose Benfica because I think it's the best club in Portugal. I spent 12 years there, so I played there between my 7 and 19, so 12 years. So half of my life was spent at Benfica.
So I'm just trying to like place you like age-wise. So growing up as a kid would have been like Rui Costa, Benfica era, something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So when I was about 15 years old, I used to be one of the ball boys, and Rui Costa was doing his last season in Benfica. So Rui Costa's last game in Estádio da Luz in Benfica Stadium, I was a ball boy and I watched him very closely. Yeah.
What do you pick up from that then, from watching him?
Well, not only him, but a lot of players. Of course, him because he used to play more or less in my position. Portuguese, Benfica, one of the best midfielders Portugal has ever known. So yeah, it was a big inspiration for me, and to be able to watch him so closely. As I said, as a ball boy, you're like 1-2 meters sometimes from the players. It was really nice because when I was younger, my dream was to play for Benfica, and I looked at those players, and they were my idols.
It's not cheap actually to like go and play football when you're a kid in Portugal. So did your family like have the financial means to say, here you go, you can go to the Benfica Academy and learn to be a footballer?
When I turned 7, my grandfather and my mum, they as a birthday present, they gave me a few months at Benfica's academy. I only had to pay 2 months, and then they selected me to the next level, and on the next level you don't have to pay. So in 12 years of Benfica, my family, they paid 1 or 2 months.
Your grandfather on your mother's side. So Sporting fan put me in Benfica's academy, yeah. Wow.
Because he knew I was a huge Benfica fan. He knew I wanted to play. He knew I wanted to play for Benfica. So yeah, he offered me that present. My mom as well is from Sporting, so both of them. I know it was probably quite difficult for them, but it was what I wanted, so very grateful.
It's funny, a lot of people last season in the Premier League were like amazed by the Liverpool-Manchester City title race. But you kind of have experience of that because you won the league with Monaco against PSG in that same scenario where you basically have to just win every time you take the field.
Well, yeah. Last season against Liverpool was very, very tough. Was probably, in my short career, the second biggest achievement, because when I look back at the way we won against PSG, I have to say honestly that it was even more difficult than winning against Liverpool, because Monaco beating PSG is something that happens once in every 20 years. If you look at the gap, it's huge. You cannot compare. So yeah, last season was very special, very, very special. And it was probably one of the most exciting Premier Leagues you've had over the last few years. But yeah, for me, that season in Monaco was crazy as well, yeah.
Manchester City's Bernardo Silva speaking to World Football's Steve Crossman. Wilfried Bony, when you moved to Manchester City, you became the most expensive African player at the time, but things didn't go so well for you there as they had at Swansea. Pep Guardiola came in and you moved on loan to Stoke City pretty quickly. How much contact did you have with him? What did he say to you when he came in?
Yeah, we have a nice conversation. He told me if you want to stay, it's not a problem, but for you and as you used to play every game, the best for you is to find something where you can play every game, every week. That's where you get better, and then that's why you can improve every time. But play one game and after play the third or the fourth game, it doesn't help you because you are not like the other players. Better for each other for me to leave and then find another place where I can play every weekend.
Let's end with what I guess is your career highlight, winning the Africa Cup of Nations with Ivory Coast in 2015. Finally, that team of the Tourés and Drogba and you and so many other great players who hadn't won it, who finally won it, and they won it with a penalty shootout. 9-8 it finished in the final after you missed. But what a great achievement it was to finally get that medal.
Yeah, it was something that we can't explain, because the country has been waiting for that almost 23 years. And we missed one time again. We missed the second time. I think third time, one in Egypt, one against Zambia. In final 2012, when I was there, that was my first African Cup. And the one we won, it was something very massive, very, very massive. You can see how the people come to the airport to wait for us. It was very, very big for the country and also for the peace in Ivory Coast. So it was very great achievement for the country. And when I missed that, I was thinking the same about 92 against Ghana. The first two Ivory Coast players missed. The second one was like the number 12, and me also, number 12, Wilfried Bony, missed the penalty. So when I missed that, I was like, wow, what's going to be? And then there was a lot of things happened 2 days before the game. Main keeper got injured, so we need to play the experienced one. Nobody was believing in him. They didn't want it, so nobody was believing us. God wanted to give him credit, so he was the one give us the cup.
Wonderful. Wilfried, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Good luck with your search for a club. There's still time. Thank you also to Pat Nevin and World Cup winner Heather O'Reilly. And if you weren't listening to last week's programme, you won't understand my intonation. I'm not going to explain it to you. I'm just going to tell you to listen to the podcast from last week's programme. Guys, thanks very much. Speak next week from all of us. Goodbye.